I have enough time to do that, though.
Come a little closer and lend me your ears. Don't worry, you keep yours while I keep mine.
In each episode, we'll dig into the major stories, uncover the truth, and retrieve gems from Yada's blog.
We'll discuss what's right, bark about what's wrong, wag our tails at the thrill of discovery, and take you on adventures through the exciting world we live in today. So, fasten your curiosity leash and get ready. Right then, coming to you with another episode of the Yada's Vlog on a Blog. Tomorrow's news, disseminated today. Let's dive in.
Well, good morning there, Kevin. How are you this morning?
Morning. I'm doing well. Doing well.
Good. Pleasure to be able to broadcast our vlog on the daily. Something both you and I now know that Wookie does not know is he now has competition for dog on duty. Have you seen the new sign off on Plumeria Asher?
I have. That is really good. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Part of me wants to just cut that and put it into the show tonight at some point for the just that little bit.
Yeah, I think we need to. I think we need to have a short on Plumeria Asher. For those who don't know what we're talking about, and that would be everyone except for maybe Leah, John Voight, and Kevin and I, is that we have a couple of songs on. One's called Mr. Babylon, and I like to call it Mr. Babylon. And the other is Star Spangled Crossplay. And the songs are absolutely hilarious. They're both done in the Caribbean genre. And JV has just finished all the graphics behind Mr. Babylon. And it ends with Asher at the controls. So it is just, it's hilarious. And of course, it's a way of exposing Donald Trump as Rahab, as Satan incarnate, as the great destroyer and betrayer. And so that's what we were talking about. And it is really hilarious. We won't be playing that tonight on our Family Hour. We have 2 songs and maybe even 3 that will be part of Family Hour. We have the Ode to Ruth. I happen to also like, it's a shorter song, but I like The Name Above All Names with the pretty dancing Leah as our singer and our trumpeter. And then she has another kind of fun song that she wants to play. That's also for Family Hour tonight. So we may be showing 3 songs on Family Hour, and we'll put off our Babylon until you get it all dialed up and we get it posted on the site. But the music group is doing a spectacular job, and I think that the music is a huge part of what we're offering. I mean, having all original songs that are all specific to our message and mission and to Yahweh calling his people home, that's absolutely marvelous.
Yeah, it's a great content to be able to reach more people, a media to do that. Absolutely.
Yep. So you're probably up to speed with us now. Yesterday, you thought that the flip books were the latest and greatest. And by the way, the flip books are now, our proprietary flip books are now live on the site. So we do have that capability, and they are really, really well done. And many, many features that are unique to them. But also, the search capability now has been integrated and cleaned up, and it is working beautifully. I've never seen any search feature, that's anywhere close to it. Not only for the books, and it brings you the cover of the book, the section of the book where the terms you're looking for are presented, but also if you click on that link, it will take you to the flip books, and will have all the pages off to the left side where that term appears within context. And if you click on those, it'll not only take you to that page in the flip book, it'll have the term that you were looking for highlighted.
Yeah.
What a marvelous way to go about it. And that's the romper room side of things, because the PhD side is what happens with the videos, because to be able to search a video, you have to have a transcript. And so we have an automatic transcript generation capability now that we're deploying. And I think we have a little over half of the 1,000 hours of 1,500 hours, 1,000 videos. We have a little over half done. I think they have finished through December of last year, going backwards in time. But not only do we have the transcripts, what the search does is it presents every time your word or phrase is found in any of the vlogs that we have done up to this point. And it shows a transcript of where it is in that particular vlog presentation. But if you click on the thumbnail for the vlog, it will not only take you to that place in our vlog, but it will back you up about, it's to the last full sentence regarding the statement pursuant to the word that you're questioning. And so you play it and it'll go on. And you can go back in time or forward or whatever you wish to do, but it'll take you right to the proper place to have that word introduced in context.
Yeah. I'm excited about that more than anything because it kind of puts me out of a job because I really did a lot of because I was cutting the shorts. People would have questions. Yes. Hey, I remember him saying, where would he say that? They'd ask on Discord and stuff, and I'd have to go back and look through the shorts or look through the video or kind of from memory and be like, hey, that was, Catseer Harvest 73 at about 30 minutes, or whatever, and could cut them the video and stuff. And it's not, I don't have to do that anymore. So thank you, Joe.
They can use the site to do what technology should be able to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a beautiful thing. And we're going to add a lot of new features to the site here over the next few days. We're going to have a new homepage look with very structured material as you go down the homepage, and what's available already at the bottom of the homepage is a direct link to resources. Since we're building up content there, our grammar tutorials, I don't know if we're going to consolidate them to 1, 2, 3, or 4, but I think there are 4 of them. And they're getting very close to being ready to present. We're going to take the calendar, which has been residing within Shauna years as volume 8 of Yada Yawa, and keep it there, but also bring it into the timeline. It won't actually be positioned within the timeline. It'll be a link from the time page to take you to it, so it's more available. Just lots of new things being added all the time, and greater functionality, more stability on the site, and it still retains its aesthetic beauty. It's a very pretty site.
Yeah, you mentioned you're like, hey, so you're up to speed on the site, and I'm like, trying. I'm there every day, but man, there's a lot to keep up with.
There is, and it's just so beautifully presented. So, anyway, we'll I would say probably in the next few weeks we'll be so far along that it'll be at least an hour show and maybe 2 1-hour shows with Joe, where we literally walk through the feature of the sites. And maybe it's 2 of us and Leah and Joe, since she was the artistic, stylistic guide to the site. And we just walk through all of the features and point out how to use them, because I don't think that there's anybody other than maybe Joe and myself and perhaps you that knows really the full depth of the capability of that site. And of course, the real magic of it now isn't just in its elegance, and it is elegance, very credible, beautiful place for Yahweh's name. And it isn't just in the library that's there, which is proprietary to us. It's not just the 1,000 hours of vlogs and live streams that are now there. It isn't just in the 100 some odd unique and inventive, beautiful songs that are all written for the site. It isn't just that it has a full news capability with the blog and is, I think, better than Facebook or X in that regard. It's not just that it has the full messenger and chat capability, which I think is also better than X and Facebook or any other instant messenger kind of capability. There's the whole thing has come together so beautifully, but what you see and can interact with is 10% of the site.
Yeah.
90% of it is that admin tool that sits behind it. And the self-healing capabilities of it, and the fact that non-technologists can do marvelous things in terms of updating and presenting material for the site.
Yeah, absolutely. The admin panel, it's a little overwhelming.
It
I can
is.
admit to actually touching and clicking on probably a third of the things in there that I'm comfortable with.
Hmm.
Okay, I know what that does because I know it's self-healing, but I still don't want to start making things inactive or, well, this doesn't go here or that doesn't go there or whatever, because it's like, I just it's live. As Joe likes to say, we're performing without a net on our site. There is no,
We
hey, we
are.
made a change. So
Yes, it's true. And one of the things that's interesting is that Joe is not a spectacular teacher. He's a spectacular programmer, and he's doing this all so that all of the code is proprietary and it's all dynamically generated out of a database and out of tables, which is remarkable. But if I get his attention on the phone and we go through it because he wants to say, you can do that. You don't need my help. You can actually do that. And if he'll tell me something to click to set it up, and I'll say, but that's not exactly what you said. And he says, but you're just impatient. You're not ready to analyze the results. We're not finished with the input. And he's got, like, it's like an aircraft panel. He's got like a panel of 400 choices at the top, and you got to get all the toggles in the right position before you proceed.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So it is a challenge, and you'll say, okay, just slow down. This is you're not ready for that phase of it yet. I wanted Joe
Right.
to do a tutorial. We may get him to do one in the background for the admins, but we'll see. We might get him recorded as part of. But it's a marvelous presentation. I'm very proud of it. I know I was proud of it, and it will be in service for the next 1,000 years.
Yeah, it is the NES. Absolutely. The banner.
Yeah. All right. So we are going to do our vlog on the vlog. The first slide here is really interesting in that someone presented graphically that there are 6 states of matter. We've all known, and everybody is aware of 3, which is a solid state, the liquid state, and the gaseous state of matter. Water, of course, is the most interesting of all compounds in this regard, and that water is the only thing that I know of that actually expands when it goes from liquid to solid. And if it didn't do that, there'd be no life on the planet. So we ought to be really pleased with the fact that ice floats, because if it didn't, literally there'd be no life on the planet. So that's pretty clever of Iowa to make the exception with water. The 4th state, of course, is plasma. And plasma, I'm not sure we know a lot about plasma because of the exceedingly high temperatures of plasma, if it weren't for returning space capsules, right? They had to encounter plasma with their heat shields and deflect away from it. And of course, it was really necessary because it was the return to the atmosphere that actually was the brakes for that capsule. And without it, they wouldn't be able to break. And then we had to figure out how to put heat shields on it to withstand that kind of temperature. And they used various forms of ceramic because metal is a conductor and the ceramics were insulators. But it proved to us that there was a 4th state of matter. Now here they're talking about 2 more. What are those, Kevin? And what do you think of them?
Oh, goodness. Well, we have the Bose-Einstein condensate, something about fermions at absolute 0 temperature. So we're talking the theoretical idea of Kelvin here, right?
Correct.
Particles occupy the same quantum state and behave like a single particle, which is sort of counterintuitive in my mind. That's something that would go from a lower state of vibration to a higher state of vibration is actually, it seems like they're,
with temperature,
the way this is worded, lowering, therefore particle less activity in the electrons. They
more particle nature, less wave nature, with a decrease in temperature sounds counterintuitive.
Yeah, every time you think of more energy, you think of more temperature,
Yes.
At least I do anyway.
Yeah, the thing that fascinates me about matter is the realization that matter is mostly not. even in the solid state of something like a table. Well, a table is a great example because we think of a table as a solid, but it's not. It's a liquid. Glass is a liquid at that state, not a solid. But the fact is that matter is really organized energy, and what we feel is matter because you can hold it, like I can hold this solid that's containing this liquid, is really just organized energy, and that the voids are enormous compared to the particles. So that,
Right.
here I can hold this here, recognizing that it's by trillions to one, the voids in this solid container are by trillions to one greater than the particles. And it's the bonds between them that keep the liquid, which also has the same kind of nature, but it keeps them from flowing from one to the other because of the electric fields and the like between them. But matter really is nothing but organized energy and a diminished form of energy. So you could say call it the multiple states of energy, and that matter would fall under energy.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's people. People don't realize that everything around them is vibrating at a different speed, at a different wavelength. We call that, right?
Everything's
And
moving.
Yeah. And so it is possible to pass through what we perceive as a solid object if you are vibrating at a higher level than that object is
A higher
vibrating.
frequency.
Like you say, the spaces between the electromagnetic charges between, like you said, the spaces that are between the actual molecules.
Yeah. There are cosmic rays and that sort of thing. They're actually able to pass through our planet. The atmosphere and the planet come out the other side. So it's really fascinating, the nature of the two. That's what E equals MC2 is, equals MC squared is really all about, is that energy equals matter, with matter multiplied by the square of the speed of light. So they are actually the same thing. That's what the equal sign means, that mass and matter and energy are exactly the same thing. They're just different amounts of the same thing.
Right.
And
it's interesting that we have these 6 states of matter, okay, and that we perceive this as a 6-dimensional universe, with Yahweh being in the 7th, right?
Yes.
So it's interesting that as we were to traverse those 6 dimensions, we probably will gain more perception of these different states, not just being able to perceive them, because once we can perceive them, observe them, interact with them, then we're able to use them, speak things into existence with fermions, I guess. I don't know.
With light being the literal definition of energy. I mean, it's the definition of the universe. Light speed and the nature of light define our universe. And so with light energy being the ultimate form of energy, and the 6 stages of matter being diminished forms of it and falling underneath it, we do have a very clear idea too of Yahweh in the 7th dimension creating a 6-dimensional universe. And it speaks highly too of the idea that we humans, to have any opportunity to be more than we are, have to get well past those first 3 states. If we can't get past the state of solid, liquid, and gas, of which we are all 3, if we can't get past those states and go way beyond them and transition into energy, then the laws of thermodynamics and the whole nature of decay of matter would put us in a position we could never get off the planet. We could never live beyond our mortal existence. And it's one of the reasons why religions like Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, that are all predicated upon bodily resurrection, are going in the wrong direction. There is no value whatsoever to go from a physical body to a physical body. You still have all the same limitations. And so Christianity, Judaism, and Islam are just dead wrong in that regard. You have to go from physical beings in 3 dimensions to a 7-dimensional being that's whose soul is encapsulated in light energy.
Yeah, it's a nature of our soul and our nasama falling and being too damn enamored with this 3-dimensional existence. Too damn enamored with the things that happen here in the. Hey, I want a big house. I want wealth. I want power. But it is, as they say in the Proverbs, and as Dode says, it is all vanity. Those flowery plaques will fade away. There's nothing that we put here in 3 dimensions that lasts like a soul will. And even at that point, Yahweh describes the destruction of souls, correct? Not setting them apart to Sheol, but the destruction of souls as the second, fate. And so therefore, the law of conservation of thermodynamics doesn't apply there. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. So therefore, those souls are destroyed. He says destroyed,
right. Yeah, a soul is neither energy nor is it matter. It's a state that is beyond our perception. Now, what's also interesting, you take religions like Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. These are religions that are totally focused on man. In Islam, it's man being ruthless, man being covetous, man being deadly, and man being misogynist. That is
the lowest
man,
of our nature.
Man over life, all focused on jihadi men. And in Christianity, it's so focused on men that not only did men create it, but their very God is a man. All right. And so then you look at Judaism, and it's all focused on rabbis who are men. So in the religions of men, for men, where even the God, in the case of Christianity, is a man, they're naturally focused on bodily resurrection. The body is everything to them. And that's why God looks at religion and said, how could you be so blankety blank stupid? That is the problem. And I want people who, particularly Christians, to recognize that men created a religion where men are God, where the solution is bodily resurrection. And to think about how idiotic that is. Every aspect of it.
Yeah, I can't wait to trade mine in.
Yes.
I'm not enamored with it. Just saying.
Yes, mine's ready to go as well. Mine has taken very good care of me. For 71 years old, and my soul is at least 6,000 years old. Some would say 1 billion years old. I think it's all in all pretty good for the wear. But when I come back, I'm going to have a newer, leaner, stronger, better eyesight, better hearing. I'm going to be a little taller. I'm going to buff up a bit in my new version. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't do that. All right, let's talk about some of the items in the news. Oh yeah, this is an interesting one.
Absolutely.
Think about
Chaym
it. Were you aware of him?
Yeah.
Chaym Solomon. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I've studied him a fair amount because I'm fascinated, not so much about Chaym Solomon, but about American patriotism, because Chaym Solomon was more important to America's independence than were George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Samuel Adams, Benjamin Franklin combined. And yet, everybody will talk about Madison and Monroe and Washington and Jefferson and Adams and Franklin as the founding fathers of America, right? Give them all the credit. Do you ever hear anybody talking about Chaym Solomon?
No.
No, without Chaym Solomon, you would have never heard about the other 6 guys that I just mentioned.
Right.
That's the bottom line.
Have been.
He gave what would be equivalent. I can't read the number there, but it's like
20 billion.
Billions. 20 billion, right? Is it 20?
Yeah.
Yeah, the equivalent of $20 billion today to fund the American Revolution. And without that money, there were no guns, there were no uniforms, there was no boots, there was no tents, there was no George Washington as a general, there was no revolution. Concord, and they shoot them down. I think a half a dozen people. That would have been it, and it would all have fizzled out without the funding of Chaym Solomon. And so, what does it say about American patriotism, such that the man who is most responsible for American independence, the man who funded it all, he was the central bank of America, except he didn't loan the money, he gave the money. He was the benefactor of the American Revolution, and 99.99999% of Americans have never heard of him.
Unbelievable. And his story is, look, I get it. Ideally, oligarchs bad, right? I mean, but oligarchs, Washington was an oligarch, Jefferson was an oligarch. These guys were doing what they were doing based in their own self-interest, and the country just kind of happened to benefit from it. It was a synergy, a freedom for all, this idea of liberty, right?
I'm gonna challenge that. First of all, I think oligarchs are great.
Okay.
I think oligarchs are great, and and I would tell you that the only two what we would call democracies, but they were not. They were oligarchies. The only two that had any staying power in world history was the oligarchy of the Grecian islands, which lasted about 200 years, and the oligarchy of Sparta. They were it. There is no evidence that a democracy that is not an oligarchy has any chance of survival, because it's two wolves and a lamb deciding what's for dinner. And
in mass, we are just too stupid.
Right. And the unproductive and the uninformed are given control over the productive and the informed. So it's government by idiots on behalf of the selfish. I mean, it's
absolutely.
Our founding fathers despised it, a democracy. Oligarchy is how the country was founded, actually, as a representative government. You had to own land. You had to be vested in the system to be able to vote. And that's the deal of an oligarchy, is for the people who contributed to the society, who built businesses, who owned land that was productive, who were making contributions to the society, got to decide how the money that they were giving to that government was spent. Now, if you allow people who are the net beneficiaries, even if they're parasites, to decide, and they always exceed the ones who are productive, then it will cause the productive to say, what the hell am I doing this for? You punish success and you reward failure, you're going to get very little success and a lot of failure over time, which is what's happened to the American economy. It's why it doesn't function anymore. So I actually think that oligarchs are the reason that nations have gone through a prosperous stage. And when we turn on oligarchs and we think that democracy is a good thing as opposed to a bad thing, that we lose the value of the community. And you have people who are voting who are clueless as to economics. They're clueless as to what the cost is and the consequence of war. They're clueless as to debate and rhetoric and the proper appreciation of right and wrong. They don't know history. And they're not in a position where they would even have studied the candidates well enough to make an intelligent decision. So I am not a fan of democracy. I have never been. I will never be. But I think oligarchies have a greater likelihood of success than really anything else. I happen to like Yahweh's view of it, which got very clever. He said, listen, I'm fully aware that people are not created equal. You're just not created equal. That's an absolute lie. There are certain people who are just much smarter than others. Their processor works better. They're more rugged. They're more devoted. They have more grit. They have more courage. They have more character. We're not even close to being the same. Not even remotely close to being the same. And so God realizes that, And he doesn't want to truncate the productivity of those who are smarter and more dedicated and more willing to work. So he doesn't want to truncate their drive, and he doesn't want to reward lethargy, and yet he doesn't want those who are down and out, orphans and widows and that sort of thing, to suffer. And so he came up with what I think is the perfect plan, which is that over a period of 50 years, during that 50 years, you would always leave part of your fields unharvested. Whatever it was that you were doing, you would leave part of it unharvested. And so that people that needed food, or they needed shelter, or they needed wool for fabric, they could go and harvest what they needed, and then they could prepare it to turn it into something useful.
Right.
And so they had to work to do it, but it was available to them. And then to reset everything so you don't get super wealthy and super poor, every 50 years, all debts are forgiven, all workers are free, and the land returns to Yahweh for redistribution. And in that 50 years, then everything is reset, and you can go and do your thing. I think it's a great way that a father or a mother can work together to better the lives of their children and a grandchild. Those that they would be able to encourage and nurture during their lifetime, but it would never go beyond that.
So could you say that Boaz was the oligarch of Bethlehem in his day?
Absolutely. Yeah. So maybe I'm speaking selfishly when I say that I like oligarchs. I've been one. Apolitical though. I'm a non-political person, but I've always been vested in. I've always worked. I've always built businesses. I've always hired people, given them opportunity. Yes, I've always been somebody who has built. And now we're building the house for Yahweh's name. And so I like work. I like being in a position where you can encourage and uplift other people. And so, yeah, I view that as a positive.
Yeah. Speaking to the Shemitah that you were talking about, we know we're not created equal. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yahweh also gives the opportunity to those that no longer want to choose. I mean, if you want to stay in your master's house after 7 years, right? Put your ear to the door, take the ear piercing, and you get to stay with this master, right? That you're not forced to go out on your own. You can stay. I got a house. I got food. Yeah. There are so many people that are okay with being taken care of that way,
Right. And that's a positive thing. It is a positive thing. Lots of people realized that in a society without safety nets, which is the only kind of society that's going to be efficient and productive, that in that kind of society, many people are more attuned and more comfortable being taken care of. And they can do so. It doesn't mean you get to abuse them. And in fact, if you did abuse them, they would leave. The very fact that they're treated well is why they don't leave. And they feel comfortable in that environment, being taken care of. And that's fine too.
And I'm going to be honest with myself. The so-called safety and security of city walls as civilization was built is just not for me. I mean, freedom is tough. Freedom is tough. It is hard work, but I'm not one that as more people congregate, the safety and security of city walls, I would never be a civilization guy that way,
nor for me. That's probably the most controversial thing I've said recently, is that when I look at Abraham, I look at Dode, I look at Moshe, what I see, even Yeshua, what I see is men when challenged, when troubled, run. And that's not me. I'm not running. I'm not going to cower. I'm not going to back down. You come at me, I'm going to come at you 10 times stronger. That's just the way we're going to play this game. And I think that confidence and chakma, courage, is something that Yahweh really wants from us. And most men have lost it. I think that one of the first things I'm going to do with Elia is say, that running away and hiding under the trees, we're not going to do that again. And with Doge, you ran away from God, you ran away from your son, you ran away from Saul. You're just not going to do that. We're going to man up now, okay? And Moshe, I would say, you did at least 20 face plants. One was too many. Stop it already. Show your conviction, show your courage. So I think that that walls are actually good. I like walls, but city walls, no. I don't like. The only community wall I like happens to be the covenant, and it is there to keep those who don't belong out. There were walls around Eden, and I think the walls in Eden, while they were necessary to keep death out, they were counterproductive because there was nothing in Eden that would cause challenges that could be overcome and therefore learning experiences. But the kind of walls that I don't like are security walls. The kind of wall you would put up to say, I'm afraid, I want to keep the bad element out. I'm just not. The Malak do a very good job, and I'm comfortable with them.
Right. For those that are fortunate enough. Well, last thing on Chaym here, he died penniless.
Yeah,
ain't that something?
All away. He gave it all away. The equivalent of $20 billion today, and he gave it all away to finance the American Revolution, and there isn't one, and I don't even think there's 1 in a million Americans that know of it or credit him for it or mention it. So it has to be anti-Semitism that grew out of Christianity, and Christianity played such a significant role amongst many of the founding fathers. Certainly not Washington or Jefferson. Washington was a Freemason, and that was what drove him. And Jefferson was a deist. He knew God existed, but he hated Paul. And so he wasn't a Christian either. But since most grew up in a Christian environment and Christianity is so anti-Semitic, that may be the reason why the most important of the founding fathers isn't credited.
That is the only reason, because let me tell you what, I read up on this guy. He checks all the boxes. All right. Ultra wealthy, ultra smart. He's running around the world. He's working in France a lot of the time for this thing. He is a Mason. Okay. He checks all the founding father boxes, writings. You know what I'm saying? And the only thing that sets him apart from all the ones that find their faces on money or whatever, okay, is he's Yehud. He's Jewish.
Yeah, he's Jewish. That's it. So it's purely prejudice.
Yeah. Let's see. We had one more up here. Oh, here we go.
Oh yeah, that one. That's kind of interesting. We're able to blend. Yeah, we're able to blend the news and Torah into one nice package. This is the one thing that the majority of Churchianity is united on is rejecting God's dietary lives. And then this person says, none of these are food versus all of these are food. First of all, Churchianity, Christianity, no matter which way you want to spell it, is absolutely rubbish. Absolutely and totally and completely rubbish. There was no Jesus, and I don't care if you want to call him Yeshua. That's a lie over a lie. He never existed. He was created by Paul in 52 CE. He is nothing but a crude counterfeit of the actual Messiah and Son of God, our Savior Dowd. And so Churchianity, Christianity is the blight of humankind. Yahweh refers to it specifically as the plague of death. So I don't really give a rat's ass that Christians think that they can reject the Torah, or that they think the Torah means laws. Torah does not mean law, it means teaching. And there are no dietary laws. There are no laws in the Torah. It's teaching and guidance. And it was Paul that went to war against the Torah, and he was demon-possessed and dead wrong. But also here they cite Leviticus 11 and Deuteronomy 14. There are 3 places in the Torah that talk about what you can eat. There's also Devarim 11. And what you read in the Torah is that you can eat whatever you want. God said it over and over again. You can eat whatever you want. There is no restriction, clean or unclean, doesn't matter. Eat whatever you want. The only thing I'm going to say is don't drink blood, because blood is going to be the means to redeem your soul. I'm going to use blood to redeem your soul. So I want you to pour it out on the Adamah, which is that bloody red man of the earth. But other than that, be thoughtful about it, but you can eat whatever you want. Then he has another section where the idiot would think that he's contradicting himself, but he's not. What he's saying is there are things which are healthy and things which are not. And I want to tell you what is healthy and what is not. And his list was brilliant, because what he essentially did is he said, these critters are bottom feeders. These are scavengers. The pig there will eat anything, and its stomach does not process it correctly. The horses and camels' stomachs work different than those of sheep, lambs, and cows. And because of that, they will pass on pathogens to you that will kill you. So for most of humanity, the things that were on the don't eat list or unhealthy list were deadly for you to eat. That has largely changed. Shrimp were lethal. Pork was lethal. Shrimp and pork are no longer lethal.
Right.
So that's why I think there's 2 reasons I think that God makes a distinction. It says 3 reasons, really. You can eat whatever you want to eat, but I'm going to tell you the things that are not healthy for you, and they were not healthy for better part of 6,000 years. Is that, first of all, your soul is not affected by your body. Right. Food is for the body. Intellectual nourishment, learning, is what feeds your soul. These things there have no influence whatsoever on your soul, and your body is worthless. So what he's trying to say is it really doesn't matter. I'm going to give you some dietary advice so that you can keep the body alive long enough to accomplish what you need to in this life to nurture your soul. But what you eat has no effect whatsoever on your soul. And
right.
The religious, of course, would claim otherwise, but God makes a real distinction about the soul versus the body in that lesson. The other is that God knew that men would turn what he had to say into religious jargon. Mm-hmm. And in Judaism, the religion is predicated on the idea of God didn't give enough insight on dietary rules, so they created kosher and Judaism and the Talmud to come up with all of these laws, like separation of dairy and meat, and plates and utensils, and when you could eat what, and blessing of a rabbi. It was all singular. It's to create a scheme where rabbis could control and fleece other people. Mm-hmm. And they have done so now for centuries. And God knew they were going to do it and said, so I'm here to tell you, there are no restrictions on what you can eat. Eat whatever you want to eat. Anytime, anywhere, anyhow. And we, of course, ran into a group of malcontents that wanted to disparage me because I teach from the Torah. The Torah says you can eat whatever you want. And then it says there are certain things that are not healthy for your body. Okay, I'm getting rid of mine, man. Yeah, you can keep yours if you want to, and you can make a religion out of kosher if you want to. But in fact, even one of the interesting things is on the list of things where these are not healthy for you to eat, there are 3 or 4 of those things that nobody has a clue as to what they are. Mm-hmm. Not even a clue as to what they are. So forget it. It's just utter nonsense. And anybody that comes at you with that kind of nonsense, you just should shut them down. And go to yada yada. I'm going to have a beautiful presentation. Right now, I have one in an introduction to God, but I will soon have another in volume 4 of Coming Home. I'm working on 3 volumes simultaneously, 3, 4, and or 4, 5, and 6. All right, could this be Noah's Ark? A lot of years ago, I guess it goes back now 25 years ago, I visited with Ron Wyatt's widow. Ron Wyatt is the person who found this site in eastern Turkey, fairly close to Mount Ararat, and his strategy was brilliant. He built in fact, I've seen it before in his home, because as I said, I went to visit Ron's widow because he had passed away. But a 3-dimensional, I don't know what you call them, but a 3-dimensional
diorama or mock-up.
Diorama is probably a good term. A diorama where he put a border around it that he could put in the mountains of Ararat and that surround Ararat, and the valleys and everything else, and then fill it with water. And then he built to scale an ark that was to scale, the same as the mountains, and then gradually release the water to see where hydrodynamically that model ark would come down, because it could never come down on the top of a mountain the way that water pushes away from these. So he wanted to follow the currents and just see where would it naturally come down. He marked the spot. And then he says, okay, that's in eastern Turkey. It's kind of between Lake Van and where Eden was and Mount Ararat. He asked for permission of the Turks. Now, this is highly contested areas. It's where the Kurds are being gunned down by the Turkish government. But he went to the spot that his diorama said that's where the ark should be. And guess what? He found the ark.
Right.
And he came back with copious amounts of petrified wood and all manner of metallic bolts and bonding gear. And he ran the metallurgy on the bolts, and I was able to look at it. He was able to confirm that the wood were in fact glue lamps, which is the only way it could have ever been done back in those days, and that he also looked at how it was, like this, and then as the over time, and with weight filling, dirt and that debris and volcanic ash from Mount Ararat's a volcanic mountain, filling it, the sides would have come down and splayed like this. And so he looked at what wood it had been in terms of its dimensions and how it would have splayed like this, so that the length would be consistent with the dimensions that Yahweh had provided, but the width would have splayed out some. And he measured it, and it was consistent. And so he claimed to have found the ark, Noah's Ark. And he's published books on it. He's published videos on it. He's famous for it. And you can go and actually look on Google Earth, and you can see the thing that is highlighted in this picture. It's right there. Anybody can view it. I've been there many times. And you can also recognize that the Turkish government was impressed enough with what he did. They turned it into a national park, and it's the Noah's National Park in eastern Turkey. Now, getting there is another thing. It's, there's civil war going on in Turkey with the Kurds. But every one of the discoveries of Ron Wyatt, who I know did not know Yahweh, but he was devoted to affirming the things in the Torah, which at one point in my life had meaning. Now, knowing that he found, or, I don't know, I assume that he did. I examined all of the metallurgy. I examined the petrified wood, the glue lamps, all the evidence that he marshaled. I actually had in my hands. I was able to examine it, and I was convinced that he was right. And I love the theory that he used to find it. And he used the same analysis to determine the crossing of the Exodus. And he found Nueva Beach. And he was able to go out on dives and found coral-encrusted chariot wheels and swords and all that sort of thing. And he found that that was the one land bridge that would have made it even possible to get across the Gulf of Aqaba. And he found columns that had Yahweh's name chiseled into them, established, I think, by Solomon, both of which were there when he was there. They've both been subsequently stolen, but he has them photographed. I thought that was very interesting. And I still am convinced, based upon all of the data, that the mountain route and the Nueva Beach being large enough for that many people, and the land bridge that goes from there across and no place else so that it's not so steep down and back up, that he was absolutely right. That was brilliant. And I thought his proof of pictures of chariot wheels was also brilliant. I thought that his work on Mount Choreb was brilliant.
Yeah.
He followed the route right on through. He found the rock. We photographed it on our site where it was split for the water. We found the base for the altar of the golden calf, and he found the charred top of Mount Choreb, and it is exactly where you would expect in eastern or western Saudi Arabia. Not in the Sinai. It is in western Saudi Arabia. And so I thought that was
all the glyphs that are cut in, scribed into the rocks with the menorahs, with Yahweh's hand. I mean, the Paleo Hebrew, writing.
It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And the Saudi Arabians recognize it because they put fences all around it because it destroys Islam. So I thought that was fascinating. And then you have a change there in sound, Rich, so I don't know what the issue may have been or maybe none. Then his most controversial finding. So far he was 3 for 3 in my book. Sure. And as I say, I read everything he wrote. I saw every video he ever produced. And I met with his widow and was in his home where all the evidence was stashed. And I did this about 25 years ago. And so I'm with him every step of the way here. Then his most controversial finding was that he managed to find what's called Jeremiah's grotto. Right. It happens to be currently under the parking lot for the Jerusalem bus station, which abuts the Golgotha escarpment. And you can take a picture of it. In fact, in my other office, you'll see that there's a piece of limestone that sits on one of those shelves. It's from that escarpment. And you can still see what looks like a skull in it. There's 3 crosses high up on a hill. No, that's exactly where the crucifixion of Dode took place. And beneath it is Jeremiah's grotto. Now, getting to it requires somebody that does not have claustrophobia. I'm not going to be the guy that's going to do that. And he managed to wiggle his way through this whole path. He's got it all documented. And he ends up into this underground cavern. And it's illuminated. And there's a malach in there. And it is the Ark of the Covenant. And so the Ark of the Covenant was directly under Dode when he served as the Passover lamb.
Right.
And so he asked the malach, can I touch that? Nope. Can I take it? Nope. Can I take a picture of it? Sure. It won't expose because you're going to take a picture of it and it's going to just look like glowing light. But yeah, go ahead and take a picture of it. Can I come back? Can I bring others to see it? Well, only if they want to die. So no, you don't want to do that. Well, what are we going to do? How are people going to know that this is here? And he says, it's my job to watch it. I'm guarding it. And when I am asked, as a date certain, that I will take the tablets that are here and I'm going to hold them up in rebuke of the Sunday laws. There will be a time when I need to hold these up. I've been directed to do so in rebuke of the Sunday laws, which just ate Ron Wyatt up alive because he was a Christian. And he went to his deathbed where this was the last confession he made, which he says, I have been troubled with this from the beginning because the Malak told me that that the tablets of stone were going to be to rebuke Christianity and the imposition of the Sunday laws. He says, so I'm going to hold them up at that time, but between now and then, I'm here to guard it. And so I've been convinced ever since that the story of Obed-Edom bringing the Ark of the Covenant into Jerusalem and the role of the Adam of Perah and the man from Edom and the restoration of the tent of the restoring witness on Mount Moriah for the two witnesses is all legit. And the Ark of the Covenant is going to be restored because on Kippurim, Dode needs to anoint the Ark of the Covenant with the bull's blood and that of the goat. And it's got to be the Ark of the Covenant for that to happen. And we're told that Dode's throne is going to be as brilliant as the sun. Well, the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant is Dode's throne.
Right.
So it's real.
They built two homes for Yahweh's name, right? So those don't really, and Yahweh traveled around in a tent, right? But there's only ever been one ark. There's only one throne, right? It's kind of important to him.
Yeah, I'm positive that's where it is, and that we're going to retrieve it, and it's going to be ready for Dode to announce on Kippurim. So that is this most difficult finding. Is the finding of the Ark of the Covenant, and there's lots of naysayers. And one of the interesting things too is there's a guy that has a huge following, and he posts all over Facebook. His last name is Rude, and he is rude. In fact, I even made a post on him here. He was a clinger on to Ron Wyatt, liked the attention that Ron Wyatt got, and then decided he would dress up as a rabbi and make all sorts of wild claims based upon what he learned, but twisting it to serve his own agenda. You're familiar with those kind of people?
Yeah.
Well, Rude was one of those kinds of people, and it drove his widow and Ron absolutely crazy to be abused by this man, and he's still out there. And he had a post today on how you have to be devoted to the Torah, and the way that God speaks to everyone is through the Messiah. And so, you know how often Messiah is mentioned in the Torah?
49 times. It's not a lot. 0. Oh, Messiah. Okay. Yes.
Messiah and the Torah.
Yeah.
0. There is a reference to Hamashiach pursuant to a Leviticus, the high priest. The high priest has to be anointed for that particular job. And of course, what that is symbolic of is that when Dode returns to anoint the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant as our high priest, he is going to be anointed. And so it was symbolic of that. But it was not a Messiah as an individual. It was not a Messiah as a savior. It was not a Messiah as a title. And it wasn't about somebody other than the high priest as a Lowy Cohen. And so as a figure, there is no mention of Messiah anywhere in the Torah. Messiah is actually on a 1 to 10 level of echelon of the titles that are important for God to bequeath upon men is not even in, well, let's say that he has 500 of them. He has a lot of them. Messiah might be in the top 100, but of Dode's titles, it's not in the top 10.
Right.
And he is the Messiah, and yet it's not in the top 10. There's so many titles that God gives to Dode that are more important than that. It's this whole messianic thing, and this idea that the Messiah is going to return and he's going to be your savior. It just doesn't exist in God's testimony. It's a man-made construct. There is a Messiah. He is the Son of God. His name is Dode. He is the chosen one. But as I say, a Messiah is small potatoes compared to his other accolades and titles.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that Ron Wyatt, being he obviously devoted his life to this because of his Christianity or whatever, and
Hmm.
then to really struggle with it after the Jeremiah's Grotto incident, absolutely understandable. But I I can never understand the leap that people make. I mean, to say that, well, we found the Ark, a Noah's Ark. We found Mount Horeb. We've, all these things, and they
Hmm.
prove the Bible's true. You know,
Yeah,
and
that's the point
it
I
is
really wanted to
so
make too.
far.
Yes, I agreed. Because first of all, Bible is a bogus term. God does not have a Bible. And the Bible is not true. Bible is based upon Babel, which is the antithesis of what's true. It's commingling to confuse. So the archaeology does not prove the Bible. Archaeology disproves Babel. So exactly the opposite of what they claim. And their New Testament uh, is contradictory in every possible way with the Torah, prophets, and Psalms. So their New Testament refutes the Torah, prophets, and Psalms. The Torah, prophets, and Psalms proves the New Testament wrong. And when they say Bible, they're talking about New Testament. But they've got no
Yeah,
proof. They've got nothing. I mean, there's not a single contemporaneous eyewitness account of said mythical Jesus. Not one. There's no
mhm.
indication he lived because he didn't. He's made up. So there is no, so they have to go to find something in the Torah to try to prove that what they have is right. But if you prove that the Torah is right, you're proving that Christianity is wrong because
Right.
it condemns it in every possible way. So, and the other part is if your faith is based upon whether or not there was an actual ark, as opposed to Yahweh's prophetic statements and his brilliance and the plan that he has laid out and the people through whom he has carried out his plan. If it's based on something tangible, like somebody says, that's the ark, must be true, and your faith is in nothing.
You're
You might as
missing
well
the
be
whole
the,
Neshama point.
you're missing the entire point. Your faith is your mind and your faith are completely wasted. Rather than saying the ark is true. Okay, so yeah, I've got no problem with that. I'm fascinated when Ron Wyatt found the Nueva Beach crossing. I think yeah, that's pretty clever. That I like the fact that he found Mount Choreb and it's got a burnt top. And I think yeah, it's got the rock that was split in two. Yeah, it's nice. Now I can visualize it. That's good. It's a nicety, but it doesn't take me anywhere.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to take me anywhere. Rather than saying that picture there looks like it could be the ark, why not figure out why the ark was needed? Do you understand the fallen state of man? Do you understand how many men are always bad? And yet, do you understand why God gave up on man? And then do you figure out after many men became bad men, and that's always the case, and that God was not perfect, made a mistake, regretted creating man. Why was Noah chosen?
Yeah.
What made him special? And how did he resolve the problem with the Nasalma man? And do you know that it was only Nasalma man and not the whole world? It had nothing to do with normal Homo sapiens, just Nasalma man. And can you figure that out? Do you understand the deep upwelling of seawater that the story actually tells, and the location of the Berkel impact crater, and all that residual oceanic material that came up as a 500-foot tidal wave and turned the Black Sea at that moment from freshwater to saltwater and raised the level 500 feet to wipe out all of the civilizations that had grown up around where Nasalma man lived and what a
Yeah.
Nasalma is.
The nonsense of it,
Right.
it made the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon proves the worldwide flood. The nonsense of the ark
Oh my
being on the
God.
Himalaya. It just, it's absolutely nonsensical. But when you
Hmm.
you study Torah, you read Torah, you understand it. The deep upwelling of seawater. It's a
Right.
regional Eretz flood.
Right. And then you look at uh, the names that God chose for these people and the regret that he had, and you see why water was chosen as the medium and how water will be used in the end on Teruah to purge the final remnant of their guilt. If you studied who Noah was, why he was chosen, how he was Chinook, why the ark was important as opposed to God just intervening and saying, poof, I've saved these 8 people and we're going to reboot now. Why it was important to demonstrate that a man could listen to God and finish the job and do as God had said and save his family, and why there were 8 souls on the ark and who Shem was is part of that story. The lesson isn't in a crumbling and decaying artifact.
Yeah.
It's in the living and breathing testimony of our God in the Torah.
Yeah. More time spent reading, less time spent digging in the dirt, folks.
Yes.
You'll be better off for it.
Yeah. Now, again, I don't want to negate a genuine, these aren't archaeologists, by the way. These are influencers in the dirt. But the archaeology that is taking place in Israel, I think I would applaud it. I love the digs under the Temple Mount and in the
lead
various,
tablet. I mean, that was found on that Habbo. That was beautiful. Absolutely. And what a time too. What an interesting time for it to be discovered, you know?
Oh yeah. And you know, when we created our Yada Torah script, not only did I use that, but I found, some 20 examples going back in time from related languages. There was a script in Egypt, a script in Phoenicia, a script among the Moabites, of course the various places where the script was available around Israel, but that was the oldest witness to it. And that's how we came up with the letters and the shapes of the letters that was the Joe Craig Yada Torah script that's available on the site at the resources page. Yeah, it tells a story. And the most important, I think, realization in that story was that the people that call God, this is so stupid. That's letters there. But the people who call the Aleph an ox's head are wrong. Mm-hmm. And when we designated it as a ram's head, we were partly wrong too. The fact is that the horns are absolute bull. First of all, there is no difference between a bull's head and an ox's head. The only difference in a bull and an ox is what happens, down in the lower parts. An ox is a castrated bull, but it could be of any species. So it's a bull because very few people would want to castrate a bull because that's money. That bull, he is money to you. You're not going to castrate him. And so the bull has the horns of that letter. When that letter is drawn correctly, it's never a ram's set of horns that kind of curve around like that. It's bull's horns. And the yoke that comes across straight across it, you'd never yoke a ram. So it's not a ram's yoke and it's not ram's horns, but the image was always drawn with a tapered head. A tapered head is always that of a ram or sheep, where the more squarish head, the rectangular head, was that of a bull. And so it is a blend of the two. And it's important that it's known to be a blend of the two, because they serve as the two most important symbols that God uses to fulfill the Moedim. And so that was one of the great lessons of that whole process, is being opened up to that reality. And you just start looking at the evidence with an open mind and go where the clues lead.
Yeah. The ram works on the first half of the menorah, the first of the Moedim, and the bull takes over and works on the back half of the Moedim and the back half of the menorah.
That is exactly it. You have a very sympathetic character in Dode fulfilling the Pesach Matzah Bakodim as the lamb, and then you have the guy with attitude who never backs down, who's just as tough as they come. He's not sympathetic. He's bullish. He's very positive. He's committed. You don't want to challenge him. Don't get in his way. If he says, okay, I've heard your explanation, we're just going to do it this way. Just say, okay, that's the way we're going to do it. A bull's personality was necessary in the end, because guess what? The lamb didn't work. It was a lovely sacrifice, and the sacrifice is totally acceptable if you know about it. But no one paid any attention. It was a lamb. Right now, we've got 7 years left. It's either a bull and he gets your attention, or you're trampled. It's done. There's nothing left for you. We don't have any time left to futz around. It's got to be strong.
Absolutely. Well, what are you thinking? Do you want to talk about Neanderthal cave paintings, or you want to go back up to Bet?
I have no problem with Neanderthal, but just because I am so fascinated by it, I am hoping, as a special dispensation. Well, I know we cannot go back in time, because if you interfered with anything back in time, you would destroy everything. The light speed and the nature of time, the very composition of our universe will not allow that. So I've been, trust me, I don't want to go back in time, because if I could go back into my own life and make different decisions, particularly that pretty girl that I didn't ask out when I was, I do not want to go back and have to play it out again. I'm happy where it turned out. I made a bunch of mistakes, but I would not want to have to try to correct them and end up with a better outcome. I do not want to do that.
There is no better outcome. There is no better outcome. Just
right. I know that the life that I led prepared me for this. So there were good things and bad things all along the way, more good than bad. Regrets, I have a few, but too few to mention, right? Mine, but too many to mention. But nonetheless, I don't want to go back in that sense. I don't really want to go back and see things like the Holocaust or the Inquisition. I think that my blood would boil to the point where I would not be able to restrain myself and take those guards and just munch their little heads in until they popped. So I don't want to do that kind of thing. Why be angry? And I really don't even have an interest archaeologically of seeing places like Athens or Rome or the pyramids or anything at their peak. I really don't, because they were just all pagan shrines. And so man's stupidity, that's not an interest to me. I would like to go back in time and see what Jerusalem was like under Dode during the few years that he had it together. I think that'd be fun. But the thing I really want to see is I'd love to see the dinosaurs. And you would expect that you could be able to interact and communicate with dinosaurs in such a way that you wouldn't cause any kind of cosmic conflict. If a dinosaur decided it was going to walk across that field a little slower than it would have otherwise, I just don't think that's going to change our reality. Do you?
No, not in a sense of the whole if a butterfly flaps its wings kind of crap. No, it doesn't. It doesn't work that way as far as because at the end of the day they all die. I mean, so it's like, is the oil in a different spot now than it was before? If that dinosaur didn't make it to whatever.
Well, actually, it's not actually fossil fuels anyway. It's not fossil fuels at all, as a matter of fact. So I would like to interact because I just think they're magnificent creatures. And Neanderthal, because they didn't make it either. Wouldn't it be interesting to be able to spend a little time with a Neanderthal group family and just to see kind of what life was like, what kind of language, what kind of tools, what life was like, knowing that there is none of them that survive, so you can't change history in this regard. I just think it'd be fascinating. The Neanderthals interest me. Homo sapiens, not so much.
Yeah. To me, this is all Discovery Channel kind of stuff. This is the stuff that when you're laying in bed at night, you watch an hour program and it's interesting, but it doesn't take you, because what we have doing it as not necessarily going back in time, or however all time exists on a photon of light. So however we are viewing this, what we have is the truth. We have actuality. We know it's not this idea that dinosaurs may or may not had feathers. We will know for a fact. There will be it will be Sadak. There will be the truth about what dinosaurs look like.
You'll clearly be able to witness them. Yeah, witness them. Whether you can walk with them or not, I don't know, but you'll be able to witness them absolutely unequivocally. And I think that witnessing the creative genius and the whole process of life, I think, would be fascinating, and I hope to be able to do it. One of the things I can't watch those I haven't watched a Discovery Channel or History Channel presentation since AI was invented, because the recreations that are created for the most part mix in way too many elements that I know are untrue. And so it just bothers me to see so much myth. And most of the videos, even on Facebook and YouTube, where they're trying to tell a story, the filler video does not pertain. It's for a different place, a different time. And it's so fake that it just says, if you can't tell the story correctly, just don't tell it. I had one. There was an archaeologist said, there's a coin that had Yeshaya's name on it, but he couldn't say Yeshaya. He had to say Isaiah, and another one that had Hezekiah's name on it, and he didn't know his Hebrew name either, and they were in the same place in the same dig in Jerusalem, and of course the two men knew each other, and to find those two side by side was, of course, an interesting affirmation. But the thing that bothered me is that rather than showing the coins, they created an AI of them, and they made the one from Hezekiah look like it came out of Greece.
Right.
And you're just going, oh, why did you have to go there? Now I can't even share it.
Yeah, it was that. Do you remember the video that we put up? You put it on your blog page, where the IDF shows that the temple, the scars are blown up or whatever, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and then the temple, the home for Yahweh's name comes back out of the light and all of that, and we're like, number one, it's not even pointing the right direction, guys.
Right? It was pointing. It was pointing south. They wanted to have the viewpoint from the south.
People could get it right,
and they pointed it south, not east. And you're going, come on. There's a reason for that orientation. And come to find out, the reason for that orientation, I had no idea until recently. And I saw it, and then I read about it. You know what the actual orientation is? It's really pragmatic for Yahweh. You know why? Because you would think that it would face south, because south on that ridge line is Dod's home on the southern end of the city of Dod. And so that if you were Dod, you could look up and see the temple from its proper perspective straight on.
The longer view.
It would follow that ridge line. Everyone would have a longer view.
Right.
But because, of course, from Dod's home, the temple didn't exist, so the longer view was pretty meaningless. So that there was no reason to do it from that point of view, right? And Solomon would get lost among all of his little girlies and become pagan too quickly, so that wasn't of any value. And no one else was going to live in the city of Dod that would be meaningful to Yahweh to have that perspective. So that natural thought didn't have any merit. And so why was it facing east?
I have a practical reason.
Okay.
So that you start your sacrifice as the sun goes down, so that you're preparing your sacrifice so that it's in the shade. You have the shade of the temple over the altar outside, so that you're not all hot and sticky during the spring in Jerusalem, cooking your lamb.
Okay.
That's
okay.
What I got.
I don't think so.
That's not it. Okay.
I don't think so. When we reestablished the tent of the restoring witness on the Temple Mount, once the ugly scars of Islam are removed, we're obviously going to orient it in the proper place, and it's going to face east, is it not? What's going in front of it? You know what's going in front of it because you just mentioned it. That the
altar.
The altars go in front of it, right? And what's going in that altar on Teruah?
A bull.
A bull. I am. Yeah, I'm going to.
Yeah, you are.
I am. And what's God going to do?
He's going to
ignite the flames,
light it a fire,
the flames,
right? And we're going to have water. Mm-hmm.
Right, and you're going to have Elia beside it, and he's going to explain what's going on. Correct?
Right.
What does God want to happen with all of that? Does he want his people, the 1,400 in particular that he's brought in for that, to see it?
Yeah, absolutely. And as many people as possible. It's going to be broadcast worldwide.
Could they see it if they were in that the below the Western Wall, where Jews like to gather now? No, they couldn't see it, could they?
No,
wouldn't be able to see any of it, no matter which way which way it's focusing. They could not see it, right? Can't see any part of the
wall has got to come down. That wall has got to come down even for a better view from the east, from Mount Olives. I mean, there is a parapet wall that's.
Well, there is a wall on the eastern side. but the Mount of Olives is taller than Mount Moriah.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And the slope of it's pretty gentle. And so 1,400 people, everyone can see exactly what's going to happen. The distances are close. The view is magnificent because it is the greatest show on earth. The fulfillment of Teruah with the sacrifice of the Adam of Parah, with Elia orchestrating the entire event, God igniting the fires, releasing the waters. The only proper grandstand, the stadium, is on the Mount of Olives. That's why when Yahweh returns with Dode, he's returning over the Mount of Olives to come in that way. And when he comes down that way, he's going to be facing directly into the temple from the proper perspective. It's that for sight lines.
I've been working this out. Spent a lot of time on Google Earth working this out. And what I can't get, I get that the mosque is gone. Okay. And I get that whole
Dome
thing.
of the Rock.
But there is that big, how to explain it, platform that they're built on that I'm not 100% sure was a part of the second temple. And I'm wondering if that platform stays or goes, because that sucker's like 15 foot tall. And so, I mean, it gives you a nice relief, a nice flat space and everything. So,
yeah, I think
I have been trying to work this out.
Okay, well, I appreciate you doing that. I do think that the big guys got it figured out. And what I'm expecting him to do is that he's going to return it as it was in the transition from Dode to Solomon. And so that the enlargement that was done by Herod all goes away.
Right.
And any platforms or anything that were built by the Romans and Hadrian, Hadrianopolis, all goes away. And anything that was touched by the Muslims, all goes away. And the top stones are now what it was for the foundation for Solomon. Now, for that to occur, the whole thing probably has to come down. It has to come down a lot, because if you underneath that thing now, you find that they were just building on top. And so the whole thing, I think, is going to come down for that to be possible. But the platform that we're going to be on is going to be the platform of our King, not of the Romans, not of Herod, not of the Christians, not of the Crusaders, not of the Muslims. It's going to be the platform of our son.
Because what I see on the Western Wall is a very nice hole for you to be able to take if you were to take a bulldozer and take that mosque and everything and just push it right towards where that Western Wall is, it's a nice big hole for everything to fall down into, and then it's off our Temple Mount.
There you go. Yes. I think that if I were Yahweh, and you can put yourself into his mindset, and all of the corruption that's taken place on his special place, that all of the stuff that the Herods and the Greeks and the Romans and the Crusaders and the Muslims have added, and the rabbis have added, everything that has been added, and I even think the entire Second Temple experiment, if I were Yahweh, I wouldn't just dispose of it. I would throw that garbage out into the asteroid belt.
Right.
I would have it no place. Oh man, get it off of my property, get it off of my planet. Throw it into a volcano. I don't know what he's going to do, but I wouldn't have it anywhere. I wouldn't have a landfill near that place.
Well, back to our original elements discussion, that it is possible, because these are all natural things, the rock that they were used, the gold, whatever, to elementalize. So they become dust. I mean, essentially they could become dust and blown off the Temple Mount,
they could. A sandstorm that blows into Arabia, I don't have a problem with that. But it's going to be transformative. There's the last 3.5 years are not going to be business as usual.
Right.
I love our little perch here as we sit with the sea around us and we get to broadcast this program. I love this. This is a beautiful spot. We're not going to be in this spot. I know I like being able to wear my casual shirts and my my drip dry shorts, and you come here barefoot. For me, this is great. I love it.
Right.
But this is not where we're going to be. This is not how it's going to go forward in that last 3.5 years. It's going to be filled with miraculous kind of events. And the Teruah sacrifice is actually preceded by those 4 chariots. And it's all going to be very miraculous. The tablets of stone are going to be raised by Malak. There's going to be a banner that plays over our heads, a message board from Yahweh. I think that the Ark of the Covenant is going to be visible. I know it's going to be brought up and put in the tent of the restoring witness, but I think God's going to show it. There's a lot of stuff that's going to happen. It's going to be literally the greatest show on earth in the history of earth, and in that period of time going forward. And speaking of that, we do have, we're not going to play Mr. Babylon tonight, but we do have 2 and maybe 3 songs that we're going to debut. The Ruth song will be lead among them, but we have 2 more that will be showing this evening. And that we do have for next week, we'll debut the Mr. Babylon. It is hilarious, and the graphics are brilliant. And we're working now on Star Spangled Cosplay, which is the couplet to Mr. Babylon that is even wilder than the other. So it's going to be great fun. We look forward to having everybody on our family hour at 6 o'clock Eastern time. And we'll see you there, Kevin. Thank you very much. Thank you, Rich. Shabbat Shalom.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. That was Fetch. Gotta run now. Catch y'all on our next podcast.